A single mother of two, she woke up before the sun to clean up the traces of other people's luxuries and ensure a decent life for her family. Then, in a moment of pure instinct, she saves a little girl from a fatal accident. The reward? She loses her job and is exposed to scorn in front of a crowd, but that silent gesture rekindles a hope that will change her story forever. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. The morning routine started the same as always for Ashley Bennett. The alarm buzzed at 4:50 a.m., and her hand moved automatically to silence it before it could wake her children. In the dim light of her small apartment in Boston's Dorchester neighborhood, she allowed herself just 30 seconds to gather strength before facing another day. Ashley slipped out of bed, her feet finding the worn slippers beside her nightstand, and padded quietly to the bathroom, careful not to wake 8-year-old Ethan and 5-year-old Zoe, who shared the apartment's only other bedroom. At 30, Ashley's face still maintained a youthful softness, though fine lines had begun to form around her eyes, evidence of years spent smiling through hardship. She stared at her reflection as she brushed her teeth, mentally rehearsing the day ahead. Work until 3 p.m., pick up Zoe from kindergarten, help with homework, prepare dinner, tuck the kids in, review bills, and hopefully catch 5 hours of sleep before starting all over again. For 5 years, Ashley had worked as a housekeeper at the Beacon, Boston's most prestigious luxury hotel. The pay wasn't great, but the job offered stability and benefits, crucial for a single mother with 2 children to support. Most importantly, her shift ended in time for school pickup, allowing her to maintain the careful balance her family depended on. By 5:30 a.m., Mrs. Patel from next door arrived to watch the children until school. Ashley kissed her still sleeping kids on their foreheads, whispering promises to see them soon, before heading out into the pre-dawn chill. The Beacon stood imposingly in Back Bay, its gleaming glass facade a stark contrast to Ashley's modest neighborhood. She entered through the employee entrance, changed into her crisp gray uniform, and attended the morning briefing where Victor Blackwell, the hotel manager, reminded the staff about an important financial conference being hosted in the ballroom. "Remember," Victor emphasized, his voice carrying the polished accent he'd cultivated to mask his Midwestern origins, "these guests represent some of the wealthiest financial minds in the country. Invisibility and perfection are what we demand today. No mistakes." Ashley nodded along with her colleagues. She'd become an expert at invisibility, moving efficiently through luxurious suites, restoring order without being noticed. The wealthy guests rarely acknowledged her presence beyond occasional requests for extra towels or complaints about trivial imperfections. That afternoon, after completing her assigned rooms, Ashley changed back into her street clothes. Simple jeans and a blue sweater that Ethan had once said matched her eyes. She was walking past the hotel's grand entrance when chaos erupted. A black SUV swerved wildly on the street, its driver slumped over the wheel. At the same moment, a young girl darted into the street, chasing after a paper airplane. The child's nanny was distracted by her phone, her back turned to the unfolding danger. Ashley didn't think, she moved. Years of maternal instinct propelled her forward as she sprinted toward the child. Time seemed to slow as her arms wrapped around the little girl, momentum carrying them both toward the sidewalk as the vehicle missed them by inches before crashing into a parked car. They tumbled onto the concrete, Ashley twisting to absorb the impact. Pain shot through her shoulder and side, her sweater torn and smeared with dirt, but the child appeared unharmed, though terrified. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" Ashley asked, checking the trembling girl for injuries while a crowd gathered around them. "Sophie!" A man's panicked voice cut through the commotion. Ashley looked up to see a tall man in an expensive suit pushing through the onlookers. His face was ashen with fear as he dropped to his knees beside them. "Daddy!" The girl, Sophie, threw herself into his arms. The man clutched his daughter tightly. His eyes closed in relief before he turned to Ashley. "You saved her," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I can't even begin to—" "Miss Bennett." Victor Blackwell's sharp voice interrupted the moment. He had emerged from the hotel, his expression furious as he surveyed the scene. "What is the meaning of this spectacle?" Ashley struggled to her feet, wincing at the pain in her side. "Mr. Blackwell, there was an accident. You're representing the Beacon in that condition." He gestured to her torn, dirty clothes. "Creating a public disturbance. This is completely unacceptable. But she saved that little girl. Someone from the crowd protested. Victor's eyes narrowed. Ms. Bennett, please return inside immediately. Sophie's father stood, still holding his daughter. Excuse me, but this woman just saved my child's life. Victor's demeanor shifted instantly, a practiced smile appearing. Of course, sir, and we're all thankful for that, but I'm Daniel Harrison, the man said, the name hanging in the air with unspoken significance. Ashley saw Victor's expression falter for just a moment before he recovered. Mr. Harrison, it's an honor. I apologize for the commotion. Please, allow us to escort you inside. I'd rather make sure this brave woman is all right, Daniel replied firmly. Victor's smile tightened. Ms. Bennett is our employee, and I'll ensure she receives proper attention. But first, I need to speak with her privately about hotel protocols. Before Daniel could protest further, Victor guided Ashley firmly back inside, his fingers digging into her arm. Once in his office, the facade dropped completely. 5 years of employment, and this is how you represent us, creating a scene in front of our most important guests. A child was about to be hit by a car, Ashley replied, disbelief coloring her voice, and police and medical professionals would have handled it. Instead, you've drawn unwanted attention to yourself and the hotel. Your appearance is completely unprofessional. My appearance? I just saved a child's life. Victor straightened his Italian silk tie. Ms. Bennett, the Beacon maintains certain standards. We can't have employees who create public spectacles. I'm afraid your employment is terminated, effective immediately. The words hit Ashley like a physical blow. You're firing me. For saving a child? For violating our professional conduct policies, Victor corrected coldly. Security will escort you to collect your belongings. 20 minutes later, Ashley stood on the sidewalk outside the Beacon, a small box containing her personal items clutched in trembling hands. The reality of her situation began to sink in. No job, no savings, 2 children depending on her. As tears threatened to spill, a black Tesla pulled up beside her. The window lowered to reveal Daniel Harrison's concerned face. Ms. Bennett, are you all right? I've been looking for you. Ashley quickly wiped her eyes. I'm fine, thank you. You're clearly not. His gaze fell to the box in her hands, understanding dawning. Did they fire you? For saving Sophie? When Ashley didn't answer, Daniel's expression hardened. That's unacceptable. Get in, please. I'd like to talk. Ashley hesitated, years of self-reliance making her wary of charity. Please, Daniel said, his voice softening. You saved my daughter's life. At least let me drive you home and make sure you're not injured. Exhaustion and pain winning over caution, Ashley finally nodded. As she settled into the luxurious car, she had no way of knowing that this moment, this single act of heroism, would permanently alter the course of her life and the lives of those she loved most. The ride to Dorchester was silent at first. Ashley stared out the window, her mind racing with calculations. How long her meager savings would last, which bills could be delayed, whether her landlord would offer any grace period on the rent. Daniel Harrison occasionally glanced her way, his expression thoughtful. I never properly thanked you, he finally said. What you did today, I don't have words. Ashley shifted uncomfortably in the buttery leather seat. Anyone would have done the same. No, Daniel said firmly. They wouldn't. I saw it happen. Everyone froze except you. He paused. I'm Daniel Harrison, by the way. Ashley Bennett. I know, he replied with a slight smile. I asked your former manager. Former, Ashley repeated, the word bitter on her tongue. Daniel's jaw tightened. That situation will be addressed, I assure you. But first, please let me help you. Do you need medical attention? Just some bruises. Nothing serious. As they approached her neighborhood, Ashley felt a familiar discomfort. The stark contrast between her world and his becoming visibly apparent with each passing block. When they pulled up to her apartment building, with its faded brick exterior and security gate with missing bars, she saw Daniel take it in without comment. Thank you for the ride, Mr. Harrison. Daniel, please. He hesitated, then reached for his wallet. Ms. Bennett, Ashley, please allow me to... No, she interrupted, pride flaring. I don't want your money. I wasn't offering charity, he corrected gently. I was hoping you might meet me tomorrow. For lunch, perhaps? I have a proposition I'd like to discuss. Ashley's wariness must have shown on her face because he quickly added, A professional proposition. Here's my card. My personal number is on the back. Please call me in the morning if you're feeling well enough to meet. Ashley took the card. Heavy stock with embossed lettering identifying him as CEO of Harrison Global Investments. She'd heard of the company. It was frequently mentioned in news about major development projects around Boston. I'll think about it, she said finally, tucking the card into her pocket. That evening, after ensuring Ethan and Zoe were occupied with homework, Ashley called her closest friend, Melissa Rodriguez, who worked as a nurse at Boston Children's Hospital. He just wants to thank you, Melissa insisted after hearing the story. And maybe there's a job opportunity. What's the harm in hearing him out? The harm is getting my hopes up, Ashley replied, keeping her voice low so the children wouldn't hear. Men like Daniel Harrison don't typically offer legitimate opportunities to women like me. Women like you? You mean intelligent, hard-working single mothers who risk their lives to save children? Melissa countered. Give yourself some credit, Ash, and give him a chance to be decent. After putting the kids to bed, Ashley researched Daniel Harrison online. Articles described him as a self-made success story, building Harrison Global Investments from scratch after graduating from Harvard Business School. Now 38, he was known for innovative investment strategies focused on sustainable development. His wife had passed away from cancer 3 years ago, leaving him to raise their daughter alone. Nothing she found raised any red flags. By morning, necessity overruled caution. Ashley called the number on the card. Daniel suggested meeting at a small cafe in the South End. Not too upscale to make her uncomfortable, but private enough for conversation. Ashley wore her best outfit. Black pants, a cream blouse, and the only blazer she owned, purchased years ago for job interviews. When she arrived, Daniel was already waiting, dressed more casually than the day before, in dark jeans and a blue button-down shirt. He rose immediately, his expression warming when he saw her. "You came, thank you," he said, pulling out her chair. Ashley sat stiffly, her hands folded in her lap. "Your message said you wanted to discuss a proposition." Daniel nodded, appreciating her directness. "I do. But first, how are you feeling today?" "I'm fine. Just some bruises." A waitress approached, and Daniel ordered coffee for himself. When Ashley hesitated, calculating whether she could afford even a simple lunch, he added, "And whatever Ms. Bennett would like, this is my invitation." She ordered a sandwich and tea, then turned expectantly to Daniel. "I'll be direct," he began. "You saved Sophie's life yesterday, and I'm deeply grateful. But I was also impressed by your quick thinking and composure under pressure." He paused as their drinks arrived. "I've recently been looking for a personal assistant, someone to help manage my schedule, coordinate between my home and office lives, and occasionally travel with me to meetings when Sophie joins us." Ashley blinked in surprise. "You're offering me a job?" "I'm offering you an interview," he clarified. "Though I admit you've already demonstrated the most important quality I'm looking for, trustworthiness." "Mr. Harrison?" Daniel, she corrected. "I appreciate the opportunity, but I have no experience as an executive assistant. I'm a housekeeper." "You're a mother who manages a household while working full-time," he countered. "You clearly handle logistics, schedules, and competing priorities every day. Those skills are transferable." He leaned forward slightly. "The position pays $75,000 annually, with benefits and flexible hours to accommodate your children's schedules." Ashley nearly choked on her tea. The amount was more than triple her current salary. "Why me?" she asked bluntly. "There must be hundreds of qualified candidates in Boston." Daniel considered her question seriously. "Finding someone with the right qualifications is easy. Finding someone I can trust with both my business and my daughter is not." His expression softened. "Sophie hasn't stopped talking about the lady who saved me. She wants to meet you properly." "I have 2 children," Ashley said, feeling compelled to be transparent. "Ethan is 8 and Zoe is 5. My childcare arrangements are complicated." "I understand completely. The position would include access to the same childcare service I use for Sophie. Professional vetted caregivers who can assist during working hours or emergencies." The sandwich arrived, and Ashley took a moment to collect her thoughts. The offer seemed too good to be true, but her instincts, usually reliable, weren't raising alarms. "I should also mention," Daniel continued, "that I've spoken with the ownership of the Beacon. They were disturbed to learn about yesterday's incident. You'll be receiving a formal apology and 6 months severance pay. Ashley set down her fork. You didn't have to do that. I didn't do anything except share facts with people who needed to hear them, Daniel replied evenly. Victor Blackwell made a serious error in judgment. The consequences are his responsibility, not yours. For the first time since sitting down, Ashley felt herself relax slightly. What would this job actually entail? Daniel smiled, recognizing her shift from skepticism to consideration. He outlined the position in greater detail, managing his calendar, coordinating with his office and home staff, occasionally representing him at preliminary meetings, and helping ensure Sophie's needs were integrated into his busy schedule. I know it's a significant change from your current work, he concluded. I don't expect an immediate answer. Think it over, discuss it with your children. If you're interested, I'd like you to visit my office next week for a formal interview with my HR director and to meet my current assistant, who's transitioning to our London office. By the time they finished lunch, Ashley found herself warming to both the opportunity and to Daniel himself. Unlike the wealthy hotel guests who had looked through her for years, he maintained eye contact, listened attentively, and seemed genuinely interested in her perspectives. One last thing, Daniel said as they prepared to leave. Whatever you decide about the position, I'd like to invite you and your children to join Sophie and me this Saturday at the New England Aquarium. Sophie specifically requested it. No pressure about the job, just a thank you. Ashley hesitated, then nodded. We'd like that. Ethan loves marine biology. Excellent. My driver can pick you up around 10? We can take the T, Ashley insisted. We'll meet you there. Daniel smiled, recognizing the importance of her independence. Of course, we'll meet you at the main entrance at 10:30. As they parted ways outside the cafe, Ashley felt a flicker of something she hadn't experienced in years. Possibility. The weight of yesterday's disaster had transformed into an unexpected doorway. As she walked toward the tea station, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Daniel. No pressure, but I hope you'll consider the position. Sophie and I are both looking forward to Saturday. Ashley tucked the phone back into her pocket, a small smile playing at her lips as she navigated the busy Boston streets toward home, where she would need to explain to her children how losing her job might actually be the beginning of something new. That evening, as she helped Ethan with his science homework and listened to Zoe's animated description of kindergarten adventures, Ashley allowed herself to imagine a different future, one with financial security, professional respect, and perhaps even friendship with the surprising man whose daughter she had saved. Saturday morning brought unusually perfect spring weather to Boston. Ashley helped Ethan and Zoe prepare for their aquarium outing, trying to temper their excitement with practical expectations. Remember, she cautioned while helping Zoe tie her sneakers, Mr. Harrison is just being nice because of what happened. This isn't... Isn't what, Mom? Ethan asked, his observant brown eyes, so like his father's, missing nothing. Ashley sighed. It's not like we're going to see them all the time. It's just a thank you visit. Ethan nodded seriously, but Zoe bounced on her toes. Is his daughter nice? Does she like unicorns? I'm bringing Sparkles so she can meet her. She clutched her worn purple unicorn, its horn slightly bent from years of love. I don't know her very well, sweetie, Ashley replied, but we're going to be polite and grateful, okay? The trip to the aquarium via the T was filled with Ethan reciting facts about marine ecosystems he'd learned in school, while Zoe counted the stops aloud. When they reached the harbor and approached the distinctive circular building of the New England Aquarium, Ashley spotted Daniel and a small girl with dark curls waiting by the entrance. Sophie saw them first, tugging on her father's sleeve and pointing. When they approached, Ashley was struck by how ordinary Daniel looked in jeans and a lightweight sweater. Handsome, certainly, but less intimidating than he'd appeared in business attire. You made it, he greeted them warmly. And these must be Ethan and Zoe. The children exchanged shy hellos before Sophie stepped forward, looking directly at Ashley. Thank you for saving me, she said with a formal seriousness that suggested rehearsal. Daddy says you're a hero. Ashley knelt to the child's level. I'm just glad you're okay, Sophie. Sophie nodded, then turned her attention to Zoe's unicorn. I like Sparkles. I have a Pegasus named Windstar. The ice broken, The children began chatting as Daniel purchased tickets and led them inside. What Ashley had expected to be an awkward, obligation-filled hour evolved into a genuinely enjoyable morning. Daniel was attentive, but not overbearing, engaging Ethan in conversations about ocean conservation and listening to Zoe's elaborate stories with apparent interest. By the time they reached the central ocean tank, with its spiraling ramp offering increasingly deeper views of marine life, Ashley found herself relaxing. Watching Daniel with the children, his patience, his genuine enthusiasm for their discoveries, revealed dimensions of his character that business meetings couldn't show. When the children ran slightly ahead to press their faces against the glass of the penguin exhibit, Daniel turned to Ashley. "They're wonderful kids," he said. "You've done an amazing job with them." "Thank you," she replied, the compliment warming her. "Sophie is lovely too. She seems very resilient after the accident." Daniel nodded, his expression softening as he watched his daughter. "Children adapt better than we give them credit for. After her mother died," he paused, then continued more quietly, "Sophie taught me how to keep going." The simple vulnerability in his statement shifted something in Ashley's perception. This wasn't just a wealthy man offering charity. He was a father who understood loss and rebuilding. After lunch at the Aquarium Cafe, where Daniel insisted on paying despite Ashley's protests, the children's energy showed no signs of waning. When Sophie begged to show Zoe and Ethan the nearby playground, Daniel glanced at Ashley questioningly. "Do you mind if we extend our outing?" he asked. "I rarely see Sophie this animated with new friends." They walked to the harborside park, settling on a bench while the children clambered over the playground equipment, their laughter carrying on the sea breeze. "Have you thought more about the position?" Daniel asked, his tone casual. Ashley nodded. "I have. I'm interested but concerned about my qualifications. I'd like you to meet with Nathan Wells, my Chief of Staff, on Monday," Daniel said. "He can answer any technical questions about the role, if you're comfortable with that step." "I am," Ashley replied, realizing she meant it. "Thank you for the opportunity." "Thank you for considering it," he countered. "Not everyone would upend their career path on my account." As the afternoon drew to a close, Sophie approached with Zoe and Ethan trailing behind her. "Daddy, can they come to our house sometime? I want to show Zoe my room, and Ethan can see your fish tank." Daniel smiled apologetically at Ashley. "Perhaps another time, sweetheart. We should let Ms. Bennett and her family get home now." "Ashley," she corrected him softly. "If we're going to work together, it should be Ashley." His smile widened. "Ashley, then." When they parted at the tea station, the children exchanged dramatic goodbyes, as though being separated after years of friendship rather than hours. Daniel handed Ashley a folder with information about Monday's meeting, their fingers brushing briefly during the exchange. "Until Monday," he said. The weekend passed in a blur of preparation. Ashley updated her resume, researched Harrison Global Investments more thoroughly, and purchased a new blouse with some of her severance money from the Beacon. By Monday morning, she felt reasonably prepared as she entered the gleaming office tower in the financial district, where HGI occupied the top 5 floors. The reception area spoke of tasteful wealth, modern furnishings in warm woods and cool metals, abstract art on the walls, fresh flowers on the desk. Ashley gave her name to the receptionist, who directed her to the executive floor. When the elevator doors opened, she was greeted by a lean man with precisely styled dark hair and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Ms. Bennett, welcome to Harrison Global. I'm Nathan Wells, Chief of Staff." He extended a manicured hand. "Daniel has told me all about your heroics." Something in his tone, a barely perceptible emphasis suggesting skepticism, put Ashley instantly on guard. Nevertheless, she shook his hand firmly. "Thank you for meeting with me, Mr. Wells. Nathan, please." He guided her through a series of sleek corridors. "Let's start with a tour before our formal interview." For the next hour, Nathan showed her around the offices, introducing her to key personnel and explaining HGI's various divisions. His knowledge was impressive, his manner professional but cool. Ashley noticed how staff responded to him, with respect but also wariness. "Daniel's current assistant, Meredith, is finalizing her transfer to London," Nathan explained as they approached a large corner office. "She'll brief you on day-to-day responsibilities if you're selected for the position." If you're selected. The subtle reminder of her outsider status didn't escape Ashley's notice. Meredith Davis proved to be Ashley's opposite in nearly every way. Tall, polished, and Harvard-educated with impeccable credentials. Yet, to Ashley's surprise, she was also warmly encouraging. "The job looks intimidating from the outside," Meredith confided when Nathan stepped away for a call. "But it's really about anticipating needs and solving problems before they escalate. You strike me as someone who does that instinctively." The formal interview with Nathan and the HR director focused on practical aspects of the position: salary negotiations, benefits, childcare arrangements, and expectations regarding travel and after-hours availability. Throughout, Ashley sensed Nathan's subtle skepticism, his questions designed to highlight her inexperience. "Your background is unconventional for this role," he noted, reviewing her resume. "How would you handle high-pressure situations involving significant financial stakeholders?" Ashley met his gaze directly. "With the same calm and focus I applied when saving Sophie Harrison from being hit by a vehicle. Pressure isn't new to me, Mr. Wells. The context may differ, but the skills transfer." A flicker of surprise crossed his face before he continued with his questions. By mid-afternoon, Ashley's head was spinning with information, but she felt cautiously optimistic. As Meredith walked her back toward the elevator, she paused. "One thing they don't put in the job description," Meredith said quietly. "Nathan has been with Daniel since the beginning. He's brilliant and loyal, but protective. Sometimes overly so. Don't take his attitude personally." "Thank you for the insight," Ashley replied, grateful for the candor. As the elevator doors were closing, a familiar voice called, "Hold the door, please." Daniel Harrison slipped inside, his surprise at seeing Ashley quickly transforming into a warm smile. "Ashley, how did it go?" "It was informative," she answered diplomatically. Daniel chuckled. "That bad, huh? Nathan can be intense during interviews. He takes protecting my time very seriously." "I understand. It's his job." The elevator stopped at the lobby, but Daniel made no move to exit. "Would you mind if we continued this conversation? I have about 15 minutes before my next meeting." They found a quiet corner in the building's atrium cafe. Daniel ordered coffee for them both, then leaned forward. "Honest assessment. How do you feel about the position now that you've seen the details?" Ashley considered the question seriously. "It's challenging, but not impossible. I'd need to develop certain skills quickly, but I'm a fast learner." "And the environment? The people?" "Most seemed welcoming. Mr. Wells is protective of your interests." Daniel smiled wryly. "Nathan's loyalty is his greatest strength, and occasionally his greatest weakness. He's been with me since I had nothing but a business plan and student loan debt." Ashley nodded, understanding the bond such history created. "Sophie hasn't stopped talking about Saturday," Daniel said, changing the subject. "She's already planning activities for next time." "Ethan and Zoe had a wonderful time too," Ashley admitted. "They've been asking when they can see Sophie again." Daniel's expression brightened. "Perhaps we could arrange something soon. In the meantime," he hesitated, "HR will officially process everything, but I wanted to tell you personally. If you want the position, it's yours." Ashley stared at him, momentarily speechless. "But the interview process was a formality. Your references checked out perfectly, and Meredith was impressed by your questions and approach." He smiled. "So what do you say? Ready to dive into the deep end?" The metaphor reminded her of the aquarium visit, of Ethan's fascination with ocean depths, of Zoe's delight at new discoveries, of Daniel's kindness and Sophie's resilience. "Yes," Ashley answered, surprising herself with her certainty. "I'd like to accept the position." Daniel's smile widened as he extended his hand across the table. "I think this is the beginning of something remarkable for all of us." As they shook hands, neither noticed Nathan Wells watching from the mezzanine above, his expression unreadable as he observed the exchange between his longtime friend and the woman whose sudden appearance in their lives he viewed with growing concern. 3 months into her new position at Harrison Global, Ashley had settled into routines that would have been unimaginable in her previous life. "Welcome to Harrison Global, Ashley." Her morning still began early, but instead of the harsh buzz of an alarm clock, she woke to natural light filtering through the blinds of her new apartment, a spacious 3-bedroom in a safe neighborhood with good schools, which Daniel had helped her find and negotiate a reasonable rent for. The learning curve had been steep. Meredith had spent 2 intensive weeks training Ashley before departing for London, and even with detailed notes and systems in place, Ashley had faced numerous challenges. Financial terminology, investor protocols, the intricacies of Daniel's business relationships all required rapid mastery. To her surprise, Ashley discovered she had a natural talent for organization and anticipating needs. Her years of invisibly managing chaos, as both a housekeeper and a single mother, had honed skills that transferred remarkably well to executive assistants. She approached each new challenge methodically, breaking complex problems into manageable steps, the same way she'd taught Ethan to tackle difficult math problems. Daniel proved to be a patient and appreciative boss. Unlike some executives who viewed assistants as extensions of their office equipment, he treated Ashley as a valued collaborator, seeking her input and respecting her boundaries regarding family time. The children had blossomed in their new environment. Ethan and Zoe attended a well-regarded public school where Ethan had joined the science club and Zoe had made a close circle of friends. Sophie had become a regular presence in their lives, with playdates and shared activities most weekends. The 3 children had formed a tight bond despite their different backgrounds, united by imagination and the easy acceptance characteristic of youth. On this particular Monday morning, Ashley arrived at the office early to prepare for an important investor meeting. She was reviewing presentation materials when Nathan Wells appeared in her doorway, his expression carefully neutral. "Morning, Ashley. Daniel's looking for the Riverside Development Prospectus. Do you have it?" "Good morning, Nathan. I put it on his desk last night with the updated financial projections you requested." She maintained the professional courtesy she always showed him, despite his continued coolness toward her. Nathan nodded stiffly. "The Singapore investors will be focusing on environmental impact assessments. Make sure those sections are highlighted." "Already done," Ashley replied evenly. "And I've arranged for lunch from that sustainable seafood restaurant Mr. Tanaka mentioned during his last visit." A flicker of surprise crossed Nathan's face before he nodded again and disappeared down the hallway. These small victories, anticipating needs before Nathan could identify them, had become a quiet satisfaction for Ashley. While she understood his protectiveness toward Daniel, his subtle undermining had not abated over the months. The morning passed in a flurry of activity. The investor meeting went exceptionally well, with Daniel securing a major commitment for the Riverside project, an eco-friendly mixed-use development that would transform a neglected waterfront area while creating affordable housing units. As the executives filed out of the conference room, Daniel lingered behind with Ashley, his expression triumphant. "That went even better than I hoped," he said, loosening his tie slightly. "Tanaka rarely commits during initial presentations. Your passion for the project shows," Ashley replied, gathering materials. "It's contagious." "Speaking of passion projects," Daniel said, "don't forget we're hosting the STEM education fundraiser at my house this weekend. Sophie's excited about showing Ethan and Zoe her new telescope." The ease with which Daniel included her children in his plans still sometimes caught Ashley off guard. Unlike her previous relationships, where her status as a mother had been treated as a complication to work around, Daniel seemed to genuinely enjoy the children's company and integrate them naturally into social occasions. "They've been talking about it all week," Ashley admitted. "Ethan has a list of questions about Jupiter's moons that might take all night to answer." Daniel chuckled. "I've been brushing up on my astronomy facts just to keep up with him. That boy's mind is remarkable." Before Ashley could respond, Daniel's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. "The mayor's office. I need to take this. Can you make sure the Riverside models are secured for transport back to the architect's office?" After Daniel left, Ashley went to the conference room to organize the architectural models. She was carefully packing the detailed miniature buildings when she heard voices from the adjacent room. Nathan speaking to someone she didn't recognize. "Concerning trajectory," Nathan was saying, his voice low but clear through the thin wall. "He's becoming personally involved with the Bennett situation. The board won't care about his personal life unless it affects business," the other voice replied. "It's already affecting his judgment. This Riverside project has unnecessary affordable housing components that will reduce our margins by at least 12%. And have you seen the way he's integrating her children into everything? It's inappropriate." "What do we know about her background?" "Not enough," Nathan replied, "but I'm looking into it. There's always something if you dig deep enough." Ashley froze, the model city suspended in her hands. The conversation continued, but footsteps in the hallway forced her to resume her task, heart pounding. She finished packing the models and returned to her office, Nathan's words echoing in her mind. That evening, as she helped Ethan with a science project on the kitchen table, Ashley found herself distracted. What could Nathan possibly find in her past? Her life had been straightforward, if difficult. Community college classes she'd never completed. After becoming pregnant with Ethan, a series of service jobs, the struggling relationship with Jason that had ended when his financial schemes landed him in federal prison. Jason. The thought of him sent a familiar chill down her spine. She had never hidden the fact that her children's father was incarcerated, but she didn't advertise it either. The children knew only that their father had made bad choices and couldn't be with them. Would Nathan somehow use this information against her? Mom, is this right? Ethan's voice pulled her back to the present. He was pointing to mathematical calculations for his project on solar energy. Ashley studied the paper, impressed once again by her son's natural facility with numbers. These look correct, but how did you arrive at this efficiency percentage? We haven't covered that in your homework. Ethan shrugged. I just figured it out. The sun gives us this much energy. The panel collects this much, so the efficiency has to be this percentage. Ashley stared at her son's work, recognizing that his calculations went well beyond third-grade mathematics. Ethan had always been bright, but lately his academic abilities had accelerated dramatically, particularly in math and science. His teachers had commented on it, suggesting enrichment activities that Ashley could never have afforded before her job at Harrison Global. You figured this out on your own? She asked. Ethan nodded, already moving on to the next part of his project. It's like puzzle pieces, you just have to see how they fit together. The following Saturday found the Bennett family at Daniel's Beacon Hill home for the STEM education fundraiser. The historic townhouse had been elegantly renovated to balance its architectural heritage with modern comforts. Around 40 guests mingled in the main reception rooms, educators, scientists, business leaders, and philanthropists supporting educational initiatives for underserved communities. Ashley had helped organize the event, but attended as a guest, wearing a simple black dress she'd purchased for such occasions. Ethan and Zoe had gone with Sophie and a caregiver to the home's observatory-styled rooftop to use the telescope while the adults networked below. Ashley, Daniel approached, looking distinguished in a charcoal suit. I've been wanting to introduce you to Dr. Eleanor Chen. She runs the advanced mathematics program at MIT that we're fundraising for tonight. Dr. Chen, a petite woman with intelligent eyes behind stylish glasses, smiled warmly. Daniel tells me you have a mathematically gifted son. Ethan has always been good with numbers, Ashley acknowledged, but I'm not sure I'd call him gifted. Parents often underestimate their children's abilities, Dr. Chen replied kindly, especially first-generation college families who haven't had exposure to advanced educational pathways. Before Ashley could respond, a commotion from the staircase drew their attention. The children were descending, with Sophie leading the way, practically bouncing with excitement. Daddy, Dr. Chen, you have to see what Ethan did, Sophie exclaimed, pulling the adults toward the study where a holographic star map was projected onto a large screen. Sophie wanted to see the constellation patterns, Ethan explained, but the regular program just showed dots, so I used the programming interface to make them connect and rotate properly. Dr. Chen studied the display, her expression shifting from polite interest to genuine surprise. You wrote this algorithm yourself? Just now? Ethan nodded, suddenly shy under the focused attention of the adults. May I? Dr. Chen gestured to the computer. After examining the code Ethan had written, she turned to Ashley, her expression serious. Ms. Bennett, your son hasn't just connected dots. He's created a three-dimensional rotational model that adjusts for seasonal variations in stellar positioning. This is undergraduate-level astronomy and programming. A murmur went through the gathering crowd as Dr. Chen continued to question Ethan, who answered with increasing confidence, his natural enthusiasm for the subject overcoming his shyness. Ashley watched with a mixture of pride and bewilderment. Had these abilities always been present in her son, dormant until the right environment and opportunities awakened them? Or had they developed recently, nurtured by the educational resources his new school provided? She became aware of Daniel standing beside her, watching Ethan with unmistakable pride. "I've suspected this for a while," he said quietly. "The questions he asks, the way he approaches problems, it's exceptional." "I never knew," Ashley whispered, emotion tightening her throat. "How could I not have known?" Daniel's hand found hers, squeezing gently. "You gave him everything you could with the resources you had. That's what matters." The moment of connection between them was interrupted by Nathan Wells, who appeared at Daniel's other side, his expression tense. "Daniel, Senator Williams has arrived and is asking for you specifically." Daniel nodded, reluctantly releasing Ashley's hand. "I'll be right there." To Ashley, he added, "This conversation isn't over. We should talk about educational options for Ethan." As Daniel moved away to greet the senator, Nathan lingered, his gaze moving between Ashley and Ethan, who was still explaining his program to an increasingly impressed Dr. Chen. "Quite the mathematical prodigy," Nathan commented. Interesting given his background. The emphasis on background sent a chill through Ashley. "What exactly do you mean by that, Nathan?" His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Nothing specific, just that talent often runs in families. I'd be curious to know more about his father's aptitudes." Before Ashley could respond, Nathan smoothly rejoined the main group of guests, leaving her with the distinct impression that her concerns about his investigations were well-founded. Later that evening, after the guests had departed and the children had fallen asleep in the guest rooms prepared for them, Ashley found herself alone with Daniel on the rooftop terrace. The Boston skyline glittered beneath a canopy of stars, partially visible despite the city lights. "Thank you for tonight," Ashley said, wrapping her cardigan tighter against the spring evening's chill. Ethan was in his element for the first time in his life. "Dr. Chen wants to assess him formally for her program," Daniel replied. "It provides advanced instruction for mathematically gifted children while keeping them in their regular schools for social development." Ashley nodded, emotions conflicting within her. Pride in her son's abilities warred with anxiety about what such opportunities might mean for their future, and how Nathan's apparent investigation might affect it all. "You're worried about something," Daniel observed, his voice gentle. Ashley hesitated, then decided on honesty. "Nathan is looking into my background. I overheard him discussing it earlier this week." Daniel's expression darkened. "That's inappropriate and unauthorized. I'll speak with him." "The thing is," Ashley continued carefully, "there are aspects of my past that aren't ideal." Daniel turned to face her fully, his expression serious but open. "Ashley, we all have complicated histories. Whatever Nathan thinks he might find, I trust you. That's what matters." The sincerity in his voice loosened something tight in Ashley's chest. As they stood together under the stars, the distance between their worlds seemed to narrow, bridged by mutual respect and something deeper neither was quite ready to name. Dr. Chen's assessment confirmed what the fundraiser night had suggested. Ethan possessed exceptional mathematical abilities that placed him in the highest percentile of tested children. The MIT Advanced Mathematics program offered him a place immediately, with scholarships covering all associated costs. For Ashley, watching her son flourish was a joy tinged with lingering disbelief. Had this potential always existed within him, waiting for the right opportunity? Summer arrived in Boston with characteristic humidity and vibrance. 6 months into her position at Harrison Global, Ashley had grown more confident professionally. Daniel increasingly relied on her judgment, not just for administrative matters, but for insights into projects and personnel. Their working relationship had developed an easy rhythm based on mutual respect and complementary strengths. Their personal relationship, however, remained in a cautious territory neither seemed ready to define. The natural chemistry between them was undeniable, evident in shared glances, conversations that flowed effortlessly from business to personal matters, and the increasing frequency with which their families spent time together outside of work. On a warm July afternoon, Ashley was finalizing details for an upcoming conference when Daniel appeared in her doorway. "Do you have plans this weekend?" he asked without preamble. Ashley checked her calendar. "Nothing beyond Zoe's swimming lesson on Saturday morning." "Why?" "I've been invited to open my summer house on the Cape for the season. Sophie's been asking if Ethan and Zoe could join us." He leaned against the doorframe, casual yet somehow nervous. "It would be Friday evening through Sunday. The property has a guest cottage if you'd prefer your own space." The invitation, their first overnight excursion together, hung in the air between them, its implications both thrilling and unsettling. "I'd need to check with the kids," Ashley hedged, though she already knew they would be ecstatic. Daniel nodded. "Of course, it's just Sophie misses them when we're at the Cape, and the cottage has stood empty for years. It would be nice to see it used." Later that evening, as predicted, Ethan and Zoe greeted the invitation with unbridled enthusiasm. Ethan was particularly excited about the private beach where he could test his new marine biology theories, while Zoe focused on the promise of sandcastle competitions with Sophie. As Ashley packed their bags on Friday afternoon, Melissa called to check in. "A weekend at his Cape house," her friend echoed. "Things are getting serious." "It's not like that," Ashley insisted, though the flutter in her stomach suggested otherwise. "The kids are friends. The house has a separate cottage." Melissa replied skeptically. "And I'm sure you'll spend the entire weekend in that cottage, not sitting on the beach watching the sunset, with the eligible billionaire who clearly adores you." "He doesn't adore me. He appreciates my work." Ashley Bennett, for a smart woman, you can be remarkably dense. The man finds every excuse to include you and your children in his life. That goes beyond professional appreciation. Ashley sighed, folding Zoe's sundress into the suitcase. "It's complicated, Mel. We're from completely different worlds." "Were," Melissa corrected. "You're in his world now, and thriving. When are you going to accept that you belong there?" The question lingered as Daniel's driver collected them in a comfortable SUV for the drive to Cape Cod. Daniel and Sophie were already at the house, having left earlier in the day to open the property and prepare for their arrival. The summer house turned out to be a gracious, shingled estate overlooking Nantucket Sound, with weathered cedar siding and a sprawling deck. Despite its obvious value, the property had a relaxed, lived-in quality that immediately put Ashley at ease. Colorful hydrangeas lined the winding driveway, and a wooden sign reading Harrison Haven hung beside the front door. Sophie burst from the house as they arrived, engulfing Ethan and Zoe in hugs before leading them on an enthusiastic tour of the grounds. Daniel emerged more sedately, dressed in casual linen pants and a light blue button-down with rolled sleeves, a look so different from his office attire that Ashley momentarily lost her train of thought. "Welcome to the family madness," he said with a warm smile, helping the driver with their bags. "I hope the drive wasn't too tedious." "Not at all," Ashley replied, taking in the property. "This place is beautiful. It was my grandparents' originally," Daniel explained as he led her toward the guest cottage, a charming two-bedroom structure with its own small kitchen and sitting room. "My childhood summers were spent here. When my parents passed, I couldn't bear to sell it, even though I rarely had time to visit. After Diane died..." He paused. "Well, Sophie needed continuity. We started coming regularly again. The mention of his late wife, something Daniel rarely did, felt significant." Ashley set her bag down in the cottage's airy main room. "Thank you for including us," she said simply. "Thank you for coming," he replied, his gaze holding hers a moment longer than necessary. "Dinner's at 7 on the deck, nothing fancy." The weekend unfolded with a natural ease that surprised Ashley. Mornings began with coffee on the deck watching the sunrise over the water. Days were filled with beachcombing, swimming, and exploring the charming nearby town. Evenings brought casual dinners, followed by board games or stargazing, depending on the weather. Throughout it all, Ashley observed Daniel relaxing in a way she'd never witnessed in Boston. Here, away from the pressures of Harrison Global, he was more playful, more present, building elaborate sandcastles with the children, teaching Ethan to sail the small sunfish kept at the property's private dock, grilling fresh seafood while singing along unself-consciously to the classic rock playing from outdoor speakers. On Saturday night, after the children had finally exhausted themselves and fallen asleep, all three insisting on camping out in the main house's screened porch, Ashley and Daniel sat on the moonlit deck, sharing a bottle of wine. "I haven't seen Ethan this happy in maybe ever," Ashley admitted, watching the gentle waves illuminate with phosphorescence as they broke on the shore. "He's a remarkable boy," Daniel said. "Dr. Chen called me yesterday. She wants to discuss accelerated placement options for the fall." Ashley turned to him surprised. "She called you directly?" Daniel looked momentarily uncomfortable. "I hope that's all right. I'm on the program's advisory board, and she wanted to float some ideas before approaching you formally." "Of course it's all right," Ashley assured him. still adjusting to all of this. 6 months ago, I was worried about keeping our apartment. Now Ethan's in advanced programs and Zoe's thriving, and we're spending weekends in Cape Cod estates. Sometimes it feels like I might wake up. Daniel set his wine glass down, turning to face her fully. Does it feel wrong, being here? Not wrong, Ashley clarified. Just unexpected. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. What would that look like, the other shoe? Ashley hesitated, then decided on honesty. Nathan finding something in my past that makes me unsuitable for your world. The children getting hurt when all of this inevitably changes. Reality asserting itself. Daniel's expression softened. Ashley, this is reality. The connection between our families, your success at Harrison Global, Ethan's gifts being recognized, these aren't temporary conditions. They're foundations we're building on. The we in his statement hung between them, full of possibility. There's something I've been wanting to tell you, Daniel continued, his voice dropping slightly. Something I've felt for a while, but wasn't sure how to express without complicating our professional relationship. Ashley's heart quickened as he reached for her hand, his fingers warm against hers. Before he could continue, both of their phones chimed simultaneously with message alerts. Never a good sign at this hour. Daniel checked his screen and frowned. It's Nathan. There's been a security breach at the office. Someone accessed the Riverside project server. He was already standing, shifting mentally back into CEO mode. I need to make some calls. The moment, whatever it might have become, was lost as Daniel strode into the house, phone to his ear. Ashley checked her own messages to find similar alerts, along with a text from Nathan, requesting her immediate attention to an urgent situation requiring discretion. Monday morning brought a return to Boston and reality as the security breach dominated attention at Harrison Global. Cybersecurity experts determined that sensitive information about the Riverside project had been accessed and potentially copied, though no files appeared to be altered. The timing was particularly concerning, with the final investment round scheduled for the following week. Ashley threw herself into crisis management, coordinating with IT security, legal and PR teams, while maintaining Daniel's regular schedule as much as possible. By Wednesday, the immediate security concerns had been addressed, but the source of the breach remained unidentified. That afternoon, Nathan appeared in Ashley's office, closing the door behind him. An unusual gesture that immediately put her on alert. We need to talk, he said without preamble. About the security situation. Ashley maintained her professional composure. Have they identified the source? That's what I wanted to discuss. Nathan's expression was grave as he placed a folder on her desk. The system logs show the breach originated from your login credentials after hours when the office was nearly empty. Ashley stared at him in disbelief. That's impossible. I wasn't even in the office after hours last week. I was preparing for the Cape trip. The logs don't lie, Ashley. Nathan opened the folder, revealing printouts of security records with her ID highlighted. Your credentials accessed the server at 7:42 p.m. last Tuesday. The Riverside files were copied at 7:46 p.m. I was at Zoe's school event that evening. Dozens of people saw me there, including Daniel. He attended with Sophie, remember? Nathan's expression didn't change. Someone using your login and password accessed those files. If it wasn't you, then you've been compromised. Ashley's mind raced. Her password was complex and changed regularly according to company protocol. She was careful never to write it down or share it. This makes no sense, she insisted. Who would want to? She stopped mid-sentence as a memory surfaced. 3 weeks earlier, she'd returned from lunch to find Nathan at her computer, supposedly resolving an email configuration issue while she was out. She'd thought nothing of it at the time. As chief of staff, he had legitimate reasons to access various systems. Nathan raised an eyebrow at her silence. Is there something you'd like to share, Ashley? She met his gaze directly. I think we should take this to Daniel immediately, and to cybersecurity. Already done, Nathan replied smoothly. Daniel's waiting for us in the conference room, with legal counsel. The walk to the conference room felt surreal. Ashley's mind whirled with implications and possibilities, none of them good. When they arrived, Daniel was indeed waiting, his expression troubled as he looked up from a laptop. The company's lead attorney and head of cybersecurity were also present. Ashley, Daniel said, his tone carefully neutral, please sit down. For the next hour, Ashley defended herself against increasingly pointed questions, about her access to the Riverside files, her technical knowledge, and, most disturbingly, her financial situation prior to joining Harrison Global. The implication was clear. They were exploring whether she had financial motivations to sell proprietary information. "This is absurd," she finally said, frustration breaking through her professional veneer. "I have no technical skills that would allow me to breach security protocols. I have no contacts who would be interested in this information. And I have no motive. Harrison Global has changed my life and my children's lives for the better. Why would I jeopardize that?" The cybersecurity director, a no-nonsense woman named Reyes, nodded slightly. "For what it's worth, the access pattern doesn't suggest someone with hacking skills. It looks more like someone using legitimate credentials to access files they had permission to view." "Which supports either scenario," Nathan interjected. "Either Ms. Bennett accessed these files herself, or her credentials were compromised." Daniel had remained unusually quiet throughout the discussion, his expression unreadable. Now he looked directly at Ashley. "Is there anyone who might have had access to your login information? Anyone who might want to compromise you specifically?" The question carried layers of meaning. Ashley hesitated, aware that her answer could change everything between them. "The only person I can think of who would have both motive and opportunity," she said carefully, "would be someone already inside Harrison Global. Someone who knew my schedule, had access to my computer, and might benefit from discrediting me." Nathan's face flushed. "If you're implying—" "I'm not implying anything," Ashley interrupted. "I'm stating facts. I was not in this office at the time of the breach. I have no technical skills to execute such a breach, and I have no motive to steal information that would harm Daniel or this company." Daniel held up a hand, silencing Nathan's response. "We need to approach this methodically. Miss Reyes, I want a full forensic analysis of the breach. Access points, timestamps, everything. Until we have concrete evidence, we're not making accusations in any direction." The meeting concluded with an uncomfortable tension. As the others filed out, Daniel asked Ashley to remain behind. When they were alone, his professional mask slipped, revealing concern and conflict. "I need to know I can trust you," he said quietly. The words stung more than Ashley expected. "After everything, you doubt me?" "I don't want to," Daniel admitted. "But this situation, the timing, with the final investment round so close, it's difficult to ignore." "So you believe I would betray you after you gave me a chance when no one else would? After all we've shared?" Ashley struggled to keep her voice steady. "What about Ethan and Zoe? Would I risk their security, their futures?" Daniel ran a hand through his hair, a rare gesture of frustration. "Of course not. I know you wouldn't. But until we identify what actually happened, you need to protect the company," Ashley finished for him. "I understand." An uncomfortable silence stretched between them. "Perhaps I should take a leave of absence," Ashley suggested finally, "until this is resolved." Daniel looked as though he might object, then nodded reluctantly. "It might be best, temporarily." The professional distance in his voice reinforced what Ashley had feared on the Cape, that whatever had been building between them was too fragile to withstand real challenges. The ease with which he accepted her suggestion of separation hurt more than she wanted to admit. "I'll gather my things," she said, rising from her chair. As she turned to leave, Daniel called after her, "Ashley, wait." But she continued walking, unable to face him with the tears threatening to spill. Whatever he'd been about to say on the moonlit deck in Cape Cod would remain unspoken. Another casualty of the worlds that still separated them despite everything. The next morning, Ashley woke to the unfamiliar silence of her apartment during work hours. She moved through her morning routine mechanically, making breakfast for the children and seeing them off to their summer programs before sitting alone at her kitchen table, staring at the cup of coffee growing cold between her hands. She'd told Ethan and Zoe she was taking a few days off work, a partial truth that felt wholly inadequate. How could she explain that the life they'd begun to build might be collapsing around them? That the security they'd found could vanish as quickly as it had appeared? Her phone buzzed with a text from Melissa. "Lunch today? You've been MIA since the Cape weekend." Ashley hesitated, then responded affirmatively. She needed a friend, and Melissa had always been her most steadfast supporter. They met at a small cafe halfway between Melissa's hospital and Ashley's apartment. Melissa took one look at Ashley's face and set aside the menu. "What happened?" she asked directly. Ashley explained the security breach, the accusations, and her decision to take a leave of absence. With each detail, Melissa's expression grew more troubled. "This Nathan guy has been gunning for you from day one," she observed when Ashley finished. "And suddenly your login credentials are used in a security breach that could discredit you. That's not coincidence." "I can't prove anything," Ashley replied, pushing her salad around her plate. "And without proof, it's my word against his. He's been Daniel's right hand for over a decade. And you've been saving his daughter's life and bringing joy to his existence for months," Melissa countered. "That should count for something." Ashley's phone chimed with an email notification. She glanced at it, then froze, her face draining of color. "What is it?" Melissa asked, alarmed. "The Boston Business Journal," Ashley whispered. "They're requesting comment on a story about irregularities at Harrison Global involving the Riverside project and my background." Melissa frowned. "Your background? What about it?" "Jason," Ashley replied, the name still difficult to speak aloud. They know about Jason. Jason Reynolds had been charming, brilliant, and utterly amoral, qualities Ashley had discovered too late after falling for him in her early 20s. His financial schemes had eventually landed him in federal prison, but not before he'd fathered both her children and left her with emotional scars that had taken years to heal. "How would they connect you to him? You never shared his last name." "Records exist if someone digs deep enough," Ashley said. "Birth certificates, old lease agreements." She closed her eyes briefly. "I should have told Daniel everything from the beginning." "You did nothing wrong," Melissa insisted. "Your ex's mistakes aren't yours. Try explaining that to investors ready to commit millions to a project whose files were breached by someone using my credentials," Ashley replied bitterly. "Especially when they discover I have personal connections to a convicted financial fraudster." After lunch, Ashley returned home to find a large manila envelope had been delivered. Inside was a formal letter from Harrison Global's legal department outlining the terms of her administrative leave and requesting she refrain from contacting company personnel during the investigation. Beneath it lay a smaller envelope containing a handwritten note from Daniel. "Ashley, I believe there's more to this situation than meets the eye. Please give me time to uncover the truth. For security reasons, communication through official channels is inadvisable until then. Trust that I haven't forgotten what matters. D." The cryptic message provided a flicker of hope, though Ashley wasn't sure if it reflected Daniel's genuine belief in her innocence or merely his cautious legal approach to a delicate situation. That evening, as she helped Ethan with a summer project for his advanced program, her phone rang with Sophie's special ringtone, the one the little girl had personally selected months ago. "Should I answer it?" Ashley asked Ethan, uncertain about the boundaries of her no-contact directive. Ethan looked up from his calculations, his expression serious beyond his years. "Sophie's not company personnel, she's our friend." The simple clarity of her son's perspective decided the matter. Ashley answered to hear Sophie's voice, unusually subdued. "Miss Ashley, are you sick? Daddy said you're taking time off, but you never take time off. And he looks sad. And he won't tell me why you're not coming to the office anymore." Ashley's heart twisted at the confusion in the child's voice. "I'm not sick, sweetheart. Just taking a little break to handle some grown-up things. But you're still coming to my birthday party on Saturday, right? You promised to help with the science experiments, and Ethan's bringing his telescope and Zoe's helping with the cupcakes." Ashley had completely forgotten Sophie's 8th birthday celebration, planned for the coming weekend at Daniel's home. The formal invitation had arrived weeks ago, and the children had been looking forward to it tremendously. "I'm not sure if I can make it, Sophie. Your dad and I—" "Please," Sophie interrupted, her voice small. "I told everyone my friend Ashley makes the best science experiments, and Daddy keeps looking at his phone like he wants to call someone but doesn't." Before Ashley could formulate a response that wouldn't further upset the child, she heard Daniel's voice in the background. "Sophie, who are you talking to, sweetheart?" A muffled exchange followed, then Daniel came on the line, his voice carefully neutral. "Ashley, I apologize for the interruption. Sophie shouldn't have—" "It's fine," Ashley assured him. "She's confused and wanted answers." A pause, then, "How are you?" The professional veneer slipped, allowing genuine concern to color his tone. "Managing," Ashley replied, unwilling to burden him with the reality of her sleepless nights and mounting anxiety. "Daniel, about Sophie's party." "You should come," he said quickly. "All three of you. Whatever's happening at the company shouldn't affect the children." The formal distance between them felt wrong after everything they'd shared, yet Ashley couldn't find the words to bridge it. "Are you sure that's appropriate given the circumstances?" Another pause, longer this time. "I miss you," Daniel said finally, his voice so low she almost missed it. "All of you. The house feels empty without your family here." The simple admission cracked something in Ashley's carefully maintained composure. "We miss you too," she whispered. "Then come on Saturday. Please, we can talk more then." After hanging up, Ashley found both her children watching her, their expressions hopeful. "Are we going to Sophie's party?" Zoe asked, bouncing slightly on her toes. "Can we still have our sleepover there?" Ethan added. The children had been scheduled to stay overnight after the party, while Ashley attended a charity gala with Daniel. Plans made in a different reality, before security breaches and suspicions had complicated everything. Looking at their expectant faces, Ashley made a decision. "Yes to the party, we'll see about the sleepover." Saturday arrived with perfect summer weather and 3 excited children. Despite her apprehension, Ashley couldn't deny the normalcy felt good as they prepared for Sophie's party. Ethan carefully packed his telescope and astronomy materials, while Zoe decorated her homemade birthday card with excessive glitter. The Harrison home was already bustling with activity when they arrived. A science-themed birthday celebration was underway in the backyard, complete with laboratory stations, where children could conduct supervised experiments. Sophie spotted them immediately and raced over, flinging herself into a group hug that included all 3 Bennetts. "You came, I knew you would. Come see the volcano Dad built. It actually erupts with real lava. Well, not real lava because that would be dangerous, but it looks real." As Sophie dragged Ethan and Zoe toward the activities, Ashley found herself face to face with Daniel. He looked tired, faint shadows beneath his eyes, suggesting recent stress, but his smile was genuine. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly. "It means everything to her." "To me too." Before Ashley could respond, Nathan appeared beside them, his expression tightening at the sight of her. "Ashley, I wasn't aware you would be attending." "Sophie invited us specifically," Daniel interjected smoothly. "Ashley's children are Sophie's closest friends." Nathan nodded stiffly. "Of course, Daniel, the caterers need approval on the cake presentation." As Daniel was pulled away, Ashley focused on helping with the party, overseeing experiments, and ensuring the young scientists remained safe while having fun. She was assisting a group with creating slime when she noticed Victor Palmer, her former manager from the Beacon, among the adults gathered on the patio. The sight of him was so unexpected that Ashley nearly dropped the container of borax she was holding. What was Victor doing at Sophie's birthday party? He had no children, and his disdain for the Harrison family had been clear after the incident that led to Ashley's firing. As she watched, Victor engaged in what appeared to be an intense conversation with Nathan, their heads bent close together. Something about their familiarity set off warning bells in Ashley's mind. The party continued without incident, culminating in cake and presents before the guests gradually departed. As arranged, Ethan and Zoe remained for their sleepover with Sophie, supervised by the Harrisons' trusted nanny, while Daniel and Ashley prepared to attend the charity gala. "We should talk before we leave," Daniel said once the children were settled upstairs with a movie. He led Ashley to his home office, closing the door behind them for privacy. The room reflected Daniel's personality, organized but lived in, with family photos alongside business accolades. A large desk dominated one wall, while comfortable seating created a conversation area near the windows overlooking the garden. "I owe you an explanation," Daniel began, gesturing for Ashley to sit, "about the investigation and why I've been so distant." Ashley perched on the edge of an armchair, maintaining a physical distance that matched the emotional one that had grown between them. "You don't owe me anything, Daniel. You're protecting your company, I understand." "No, you don't," he replied with unexpected intensity. "I'm not protecting the company. I'm protecting you." Ashley stared at him, confusion evident in her expression. "The security breach was sophisticated," Daniel continued. "Too sophisticated to be a simple matter of stolen credentials. When I started asking questions, pushing for deeper investigation, I received a warning from someone inside the company that digging too deeply could have unfortunate consequences for everyone involved. specifically mentioning you and your children. Ashley felt her blood run cold. A threat? Against my family? Daniel nodded grimly. Not explicit enough to take to authorities, but clear in its intent. That's why I've maintained professional distance, to prevent whoever is behind this from accelerating their timeline while I gathered evidence. Evidence of what exactly? A conspiracy between Nathan and someone outside the company. Someone with access to your past and the motivation to use it against you. Daniel moved to his desk, unlocking a drawer and removing a file. Someone like Victor Palmer. Victor, Ashley echoed in disbelief. But why would he? Revenge, partially, Daniel explained, opening the file to reveal surveillance photos of Nathan and Victor meeting at various locations over the past several months, but also financial gain. After I intervened following your dismissal from the Beacon, Victor lost his investors for a boutique hotel he was developing. He blamed you for his humiliation and failed venture. And Nathan? What's his motivation? Daniel's expression darkened. That's more complicated. Nathan has been with me since the beginning. I trusted him completely. But recently I discovered he's been quietly positioning himself for political aspirations. Specifically, a run for state senate next year, with backing from certain business interests that oppose the affordable housing components of the Riverside project. The same components you insisted on including, Ashley noted, pieces beginning to fall into place. Exactly. Nathan needs to establish financial and business credentials independent from me. My focus on community impact over maximum profit margins doesn't align with his new backers' interests. Daniel sat beside her, close enough that she could detect his familiar cologne. When you entered the picture, his concerns intensified, my priorities shifted, became more family-oriented. The way I include your children, the time I spend away from work, all strengthen my commitment to projects like Riverside. So I became a convenient target, Ashley concluded. Discredit me, sever the connection between us, and potentially derail the Riverside project in one move. Using your ex-husband's history was particularly calculated, Daniel agreed. Nathan knew that linking you to financial fraud would raise red flags with investors already nervous about the security breach. Ashley processed the information, relief at her vindication mixing with hurt that people she'd worked alongside could orchestrate such betrayal. How did you discover all this? I hired private investigators the day after you left, Daniel admitted. I couldn't believe you would betray me, not after... He hesitated. Not after everything between us. The evidence against you was too convenient, too perfectly timed. A thought occurred to Ashley. The Boston Business Journal, the reporter who contacted me about my background, was that part of their plan too? Daniel nodded. The story was meant to break Monday morning, creating a public scandal that would force my hand regarding both you and the Riverside project. Fortunately, my investigators intercepted communications between Nathan, Victor, and the journalist in time to prevent publication. What happens now? Ashley asked, the full implications still sinking in. Now, Daniel said, standing and extending his hand to her, we attend a charity gala where key Riverside investors will be present. Tomorrow morning, Nathan and Victor will discover that their scheme has backfired spectacularly. The evidence has been provided to the board and to law enforcement. Their reputations, not yours, will be ruined. Ashley took his offered hand, allowing him to draw her to her feet. And us? Where does this leave us? Daniel's expression softened as he looked down at their joined hands. That depends entirely on whether you can forgive my moment of doubt. I should have trusted you completely from the beginning. You were presented with convincing evidence, Ashley acknowledged, and you did investigate rather than simply accept it. Not fast enough, Daniel argued. I let legal caution override what I knew in my heart, that you would never betray me or risk what we've been building together. The mention of building together reminded Ashley of their interrupted conversation on the Cape, the moment when everything between them had seemed on the verge of transformation. What were you going to tell me that night on the deck? She asked, before we were interrupted by the security alerts. Daniel's gaze intensified, his hand tightening around hers. I was going to tell you that somewhere between you saving Sophie's life and that moment under the stars, I'd fallen in love with you. With your strength, your intelligence, your devotion to your children, with the way you've brought joy back into my life after years of just existing. The words, so long hoped for yet unexpected in this moment, left Ashley momentarily speechless. "I understand if you need time," Daniel continued when she didn't immediately respond. "Or if recent events have changed your feelings, but I wanted you to know." Ashley silenced him by rising on her toes and pressing her lips to his, a kiss that conveyed everything words couldn't express: forgiveness, trust, and the love that had been growing between them despite every obstacle. When they finally separated, Ashley smiled up at him. "We should probably get to that gala. The investors can wait 5 more minutes," he murmured, drawing her close for another kiss as upstairs, 3 children plotted their next adventure, blissfully unaware of the adult complications that had nearly separated their newly forming family. The autumn leaves in Boston Common created a vibrant backdrop of red and gold as Ashley walked alongside Melissa, their breath visible in the crisp October air. "I hear there are some important investors to impress." Daniel laughed, the tension of recent days finally breaking. 6 months had passed since the tumultuous events of the summer, 6 months of transformation, healing, and building new foundations. "I still can't believe how dramatically your life has changed in just a year," Melissa remarked, sipping her coffee as they followed the winding path around the frog pond. "From housekeeper to director of your own foundation. It's like a movie." Ashley smiled, adjusting her scarf against the autumn chill. "Trust me, there are days I can hardly believe it myself." The Second Chance Foundation had been Daniel's idea, but Ashley had shaped it into reality, a non-profit organization dedicated to providing career development, housing assistance, and childcare support to single parents in crisis situations. With seed funding from Harrison Global and Ashley's first-hand experience guiding its mission, the foundation had already assisted dozens of families in its first 3 months of operation. "How's the Riverside project coming along?" Melissa asked. "The first phase of construction starts next month," Ashley replied with pride. 30% of the units reserved for affordable housing, on-site childcare facilities, and green space accessible to the entire community. The project had become a model for sustainable urban development, attracting international attention and investment. The scandal surrounding Nathan and Victor had ultimately strengthened Daniel's position, with the board unanimously supporting his vision after the full extent of Nathan's betrayal came to light. Nathan had resigned immediately when confronted with the evidence, attempting to salvage his reputation before criminal charges could be filed. Victor hadn't fared as well. His involvement in corporate espionage had resulted in legal consequences that effectively ended his hospitality career. The journalist who had agreed to publish their fabricated story had been fired from the Boston Business Journal for ethics violations. "And the personal side?" Melissa probed gently. "How are things with the Harrison-Bennett merger, as Ethan calls it?" Ashley laughed at her son's terminology. At 9, Ethan approached everything with scientific precision, including his mother's relationship with Daniel. "Taking it day by day," Ashley replied. "The children have adjusted amazingly well. Ethan's thriving in Dr. Chen's program. She's already talking about early college courses next year. Zoe and Sophie are inseparable, of course." "And Daniel?" Melissa pressed, not letting her friend evade the heart of the question. Ashley's expression softened. "He's everything I never allowed myself to hope for. Patient, supportive, genuinely invested in the children. We're building something real, Mel, something that feels sustainable." They paused near the gazebo, where a street musician played violin, the haunting melody floating through the autumn air. "You deserve this happiness," Melissa said, squeezing her friend's arm. "After everything you've been through, you deserve a partner who sees your worth." Ashley checked her watch, suddenly aware of the time. "I should get going. I promised to meet Daniel and the kids at the Museum of Science by 4. They're setting up Ethan's exhibit for the Young Innovators Showcase tonight. Ethan's mathematical algorithm for predicting optimal solar panel placement, based on seasonal variations, had earned him a spot in the prestigious exhibition alongside students nearly twice his age. The project had grown from his initial stargazing program, developed with Daniel's encouragement and resources from MIT's advanced programs. When Ashley arrived at the museum, she found Daniel helping Ethan adjust the interactive display, while Sophie and Zoe arranged informational materials at their designated table. The sight of them working together, so natural, so right, filled her with quiet joy. Daniel spotted her first, his face lighting up in the way that still made her heart skip. After nearly a year together, That reaction hadn't diminished. "You're just in time," he called. "Ethan's doing a final run-through of his presentation." Ashley joined them, accepting Daniel's quick kiss and the children's excited updates about their afternoon. As Ethan launched into a detailed explanation of his algorithm, Ashley marveled at his confidence, so different from the shy boy who had once hidden his abilities for fear of standing out. "Ms. Bennett!" A woman's voice interrupted their family moment. Ashley turned to see Marjorie Wilson, one of the first clients of the Second Chance Foundation, approaching with her young daughter. "Mrs. Wilson, what a wonderful surprise!" Ashley greeted her warmly. "Are you here for the exhibition?" "We are. Tanya's class has a group project in the elementary section." Marjorie smiled, her expression conveying deeper gratitude than words could express. "I wanted to thank you again. We moved into our new apartment last week, and I start the nursing assistant program on Monday." "That's wonderful news," Ashley replied, genuinely delighted. "Please keep us updated on your progress." After Marjorie moved on to find her daughter's exhibit, Daniel squeezed Ashley's hand. "That's the third foundation client we've encountered this week. You're making a real difference." "We are," Ashley corrected him. "None of this would exist without your support." As the exhibition officially opened and visitors began circulating through the displays, Ashley watched with pride as Ethan confidently explained his project to interested guests, including several MIT professors who had become his mentors. Nearby, Zoe and Sophie charmed attendees with their enthusiasm, handing out informational booklets and demonstrating the interactive components. Later that evening, after Ethan's project had received special recognition from the judges and the children had finally exhausted their excitement, the five of them walked along the Charles River, enjoying the city lights reflecting on the water. The girls skipped ahead, engaging in an elaborate game of their own invention, while Ethan described potential improvements to his algorithm based on feedback from the professors. When the children became distracted by a street performer creating enormous soap bubbles, Daniel guided Ashley to a quieter spot overlooking the water. "I have something for you," he said, reaching into his pocket. "I've been waiting for the right moment." He withdrew a small velvet box and Ashley's breath caught. Before she could speak, Daniel continued, "Before you say anything, this isn't quite what you might think." He opened the box to reveal not an engagement ring, but a delicate key pendant on a silver chain. "A key?" Ashley questioned, both relieved and slightly confused. Daniel smiled. "To the cottage at the Cape House. I've had it renovated over the past month. Expanded the second bedroom for Ethan and Zoe, updated the kitchen, added a proper office space. It's yours, regardless of what happens between us." The gesture's significance wasn't lost on Ashley. Daniel wasn't just offering jewelry or property. He was offering security, independence, a safety net that acknowledged her need to maintain autonomy even as their lives intertwined. "It's beautiful," she said, genuinely touched as he fastened the necklace around her neck. "But you know I don't need—" "I know," he interrupted gently. "You've never needed anyone to rescue you. That's part of why I love you. This isn't about need, Ashley. It's about wanting to build a future together while respecting who you are." The children had circled back, their curiosity piqued by the exchange. "Is that a present, Daddy?" Sophie asked, peering at the necklace gleaming against Ashley's sweater. "It's a key to our Cape House," Daniel explained, "for Ashley and Ethan and Zoe." Ethan studied the pendant with characteristic thoughtfulness. "Does this mean we're officially merging our households? Because statistically, blended families have better outcomes when there's clear communication about expectations and boundaries." Ashley stifled a laugh at her son's clinical assessment, while Daniel responded with equal seriousness. "Very true, Ethan. That's why I'd like to formally request a family meeting this weekend to discuss the potential advantages and challenges of such a merger." "With pros and cons lists?" Ethan asked, clearly warming to the approach. "Absolutely," Daniel confirmed. "Everyone's input will be valued equally." Zoe tugged at Ashley's hand. "Does this mean Sophie can be my real sister?" The innocent question encapsulated everything that had been building between their families, the organic bonds forming not through obligation or necessity, but through genuine connection and choice. "We're already a real family," Sophie declared with the certainty only a child could possess. "We just need to make it official for the grown-up papers." Daniel met Ashley's gaze over the children's heads, his expression conveying everything words couldn't adequately express: love, hope, the promise of a shared future. "What do you think?" he asked softly. "Ready for that family meeting?" Ashley looked at the four people surrounding her. The brilliant, sensitive boy who had taught her the power of potential, the vibrant, loving girl who had inherited her resilience, the child whose life she had saved, now inextricably woven into the fabric of their family, and the man who had seen her true worth when she was invisible to the world. "I think," she replied, the key warm against her skin like a promise, "that some decisions don't require pros and cons lists. Sometimes you just know." Daniel's smile deepened as he wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close as the children resumed their excited chatter about future plans and possibilities. 6 months later, on a perfect spring day with the Atlantic Ocean providing a magnificent backdrop, Ashley and Daniel exchanged vows on the beach behind the Cape House. The ceremony was intimate, just family and close friends, witnessing the formal union of lives that had already merged in all the ways that mattered. Ethan, serving as best man at his own insistence, presented the rings with scientific precision. Zoe and Sophie scattered flower petals with artistic abandon, their matching dresses swirling in the ocean breeze. Melissa dabbed at tears beside Mrs. Patel, their former neighbor who had cared for the children during Ashley's early morning shifts at the Beacon. "If someone had told me a year ago that saving a child from an accident would lead to this moment," Ashley said during her vows, emotion making her voice waver slightly, "I would never have believed them, not because I couldn't imagine loving you. That part came more naturally than I expected, but because I couldn't imagine being loved this way in return. You saw me when I was invisible, valued me when others dismissed me, and created space in your life not just for me, but for everything that makes me who I am." Daniel's response was equally heartfelt, his usual business confidence softened by evident emotion. "You didn't just save Sophie that day, you saved all of us. You brought life and joy back into our home, showed me what real courage looks like, and reminded me that the most valuable investments have nothing to do with money. I promise to spend the rest of my life being worthy of the family we've built together." As they sealed their vows with a kiss, applause and cheers erupted from their small gathering. When they turned to face their guests, Ashley caught sight of Ethan explaining something to Dr. Chen, his hands gesturing enthusiastically as the MIT professor nodded with genuine interest. Nearby, Zoe and Sophie were already kicking off their shoes, ready to race toward the water the moment formalities concluded. The celebration continued into evening, with fairy lights illuminating the beach and deck as the sun set over the water. As twilight deepened, Ashley found a moment of quiet to slip away, walking along the shoreline to process the day's emotions. Daniel found her there, silhouetted against the darkening ocean. Without words, he joined her, their hands finding each other with the easy familiarity of true partnership. "Having second thoughts?" he teased gently. Ashley smiled, leaning into his embrace. "Just the opposite. I was thinking about how different our lives were a year ago, and how a single moment changed everything. You running into traffic to save a child you didn't know?" "That too," she acknowledged, "but I was thinking more about the moment after, when you could have simply thanked me and moved on with your life, but instead you stopped and really saw me, not just the act, but the person behind it." Daniel considered this, his expression thoughtful in the fading light. "I think we were both invisible in different ways before we met. I had success, influence, wealth, but after Diane died, I was just going through the motions. You and your children brought color back into our world. From the house they could hear music starting and children laughing, their children, now officially a single family under law, as they had been in heart for months. "We should get back," Ashley said, though she made no move to leave the peaceful shoreline. "In a minute," Daniel replied, drawing her closer. "I just want to remember this moment. You, me, the beginning of our next chapter." Ashley smiled, thinking of the journey that had brought them here, from the chaos of a near tragedy to this quiet moment of perfect contentment. The road hadn't been smooth or direct, with detours through doubt, betrayal, and fear, but it had led exactly where they both needed to be. "I love you, Daniel Harrison," she said simply. "And I love you, Ashley Harrison," he replied, the new name still fresh and wonderful to hear. As they walked back toward the celebration, hand in hand along the shore where they had first begun to discover each other, beyond their roles and circumstances, Ashley reflected on the extraordinary power of a single moment of courage. How one instinctive act had not only saved a child's life but had ultimately saved her own, opening doors to possibilities she had never dared to imagine. Behind them, Their footprints in the sand told the story of their separate journeys, merging into a single path forward. Impermanent marks that would be washed away by the tide, but symbolic of the enduring connection they had built together, a connection strong enough to weather whatever storms might come, as steadfast and constant as the ocean itself.